The airline Spirit has went out of business. They're officially gone. I can't say that this probably isn't the best for consumers, but for weeks now we knew there were some problems going on over there at Spirit. The administration they looked into it, but they did not end up bailing the company out. Um, Over the weekend, various customers ended up being stranded. So we're going to watch some reporting on it and go from there.
Is sky high, and that may end up being the final nail in the coffin for Spirit Airlines. The struggling budget airline could shut down as soon as Saturday, barring a last-minute intervention.
They say the nail in the coffin was the increase of jet fuel that just went ahead and took them on out. Yeah, we'll see what, thoughts and prayers to everyone who works for the company Spirit. Anytime we get a less choices, they were a phenomenon though. I do want to start with that. Spirit Airline, I know they got picked on a lot. It was a phenomenon, you know what I mean? I never took a Spirit flight, but it got you it got you to your destination, So we'll go from there.
Asked for $500 million government bailout. President Trump said the government gave Spirit a final proposal.
We're looking at it, but if we can't make a good deal, no institution's been able to do it. I said, I'd like to save the jobs, but we'll have an announcement sometime today. We gave them a final proposal.
Now, a spokesperson for Spirit Airlines declined to comment on any ongoing discussion, saying only that their flights are operating as scheduled. But I want to bring in CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg. Peter, great to see you. So what happens when a major airline like this shuts down?
Well, they liquidate, meaning they cease to operate. Their tickets are no longer valid. They will not be accepted by any other airline without a substantial fare difference. And at that point, whatever assets they have left get auctioned off by.
So this reporting is pre-Spirit actually shutting down. So this is kind of leading up to it. So we're going to go from an aspect of leading up to it and actually what happened and the ramifications of it.
Conservator. This has happened before. In this situation, Spirit doesn't have very many assets left. They have a couple of gates and landing slots, but their planes are leased. They already gave back half their planes to the leasing companies because they couldn't afford to operate them. And when you define an airline like Spirit as a low-cost airline, that's really a disservice because there's no such thing as a low-cost airline anymore because they have to pay for the fuel at the same rates as everybody else does. Their labor costs are high. Their other equipment and service and goods costs are high.
Maybe that model wasn't the best, but there are other companies in that same space, Breeze, Frontier. They're on that lower tier airline category.
Their only competitive advantage since day one was to offer low fares. But those low fares won't give them the revenue they need to even pay the gas bill, and that's where they are today.
Now, Peter, we should mention United and American Airlines just released statements saying they are prepared to support Spirit customers and employees, but didn't get much detail other than that. American added they are immediately capping main cabin fares on certain Spirit routes. So for customers holding Spirit airline tickets, would there be refunds or rebookings on other airlines? It sounds like United and American may take some of those bookings, but what would you recommend to folks who have a flight booked for Saturday or Sunday on Spirit? Would you recommend that they be proactive and cancel those?
I mean, be mindful. These reservations could have been made 3 months ago. So let's see how they end up working this out.
Tickets and rebook?
There's no point in canceling those tickets unless Spirit stops to operate. Meaning, there used to be a gentleman's agreement among airlines 25 years ago that if one airline was in trouble or had a strike or a labor action, the other airline would honor their tickets. Those agreements have long since expired. If American and United are offering to do it, what they're not telling you is the details. Will there be a fare differential that passengers will have to pay? Will they be confirmed space tickets? I doubt it. They'll be standby tickets. However, if you paid for a Spirit ticket,
good luck with that one.
With a credit card, and almost 99% of the people do, then you're protected under the federal credit law to get your money back from the credit card company. That doesn't put you on another airplane right away, But at least right now, if you got that Spirit ticket, hold on to it until you hear otherwise.
So what would the impact be, though, on the airline industry as a whole and ticket prices if Spirit is no more as of this weekend?
Well, when you shrink capacity and demand stays high, the equation is simple to understand. Airfares have nowhere to go but up. And that's what's happened historically. That's what will happen again now. And airfares are already going up between 17 and 20% because of the fuel prices. United Airlines already announced that. So we're seeing fuel prices right now that are 70% higher than they were back in February. That's unsustainable for most airlines, especially the low fare carriers like Spirit, Frontier, Avalo, and Allegiant. JetBlue was facing a filing of a Chapter 11 just 2 weeks ago. At least they had assets to pledge. So
These airline industries sound like they're in trouble. Again, Frontier, Breeze, they're in the same segment. So let's see if they can keep up with the times.
20 of their airplanes to secure a $500 million loan. That was their collateral to stay flying through 2026. But there's no guarantee that they just haven't kicked the can down the road.
Peter Greenberg, always good.
So that's reporting on that. What we're going to do is, because at the time of this reporting, they've actually, hey, they're done. Spirit is done. A lot of folks are, are still trying to get to their destination. So let's get reporting on that to get the latest and greatest on where they're going from here. Check it out.
This is what customers see when they go to the Spirit website. The discount carrier says customer service is no longer available. It's also advising passengers.
Spirit is winding down all operations. Spirit guests should not go to the airport. For more information regarding your refund status and new steps, please visit their guest page.
To come to the airport and to rebook their
That's a wrap.
travel on different airlines. 17,000 workers are now out of a job. Passengers, they're scrambling to make other travel arrangements.
That's another thing. It's not just the passengers, flight attendants. Their hub, I want to say a Spirit hub is in Fort Lauderdale. That's the hub. A lot of those, that's like where they're based out of. A lot of those folks, that doesn't necessarily mean the flight attendants that they live in Fort Lauderdale. That's just kind of where they go and then they get dispatched on certain routes.
The final Spirit flight touched down at Dallas-Fort Worth International just after midnight. Air traffic controllers and other airline pilots, they were heard wishing the Spirit pilots well as they made their final descent.
Hey Spirit, Smith guys at American, good luck to y'all. Sorry to hear what happened.
Is there any other Spirit flights coming in after us?
You might be the last one. Well, it was a pleasure working with you guys, and I wish you the best. And hey, thank you very much.
Well, the soaring jet fuel costs, which have nearly doubled since the start of the war with Iran, well, they derailed Spirit's plans to emerge from its second bankruptcy. Spirit and the Trump administration also failed to come to a last-minute bailout deal for the airline, on Friday. CNN's Gloria Pazmino is live at LaGuardia Airport, one of the Spirit hubs. Did people take the warning?
Belay my last. I thought Fort Lauderdale was a hub, but apparently definitely LaGuardia, which is in New York, is a Spirit hub. I've never been to that airport.
And not show up? What are you seeing?
Well, Victor, hopefully if you're one of the more than 1 million passengers whose flights are now canceled, you know that you should be checking your email, checking your airline app, and not coming to the airport. But despite that, we have run into at least 2 people in the past hour who came in here thinking that they were going to be able to fly out. They told me that they simply had not checked their email. They did not realize that their flights had been canceled. This is Terminal A in LaGuardia Airport. It's a small terminal, but it is the Spirit Airlines hub at this airport. And I want to show you what it looks like now. You see up in the board here, it tells you all of these flights that were scheduled for today to arrive here have been canceled. Now, the terminal right now is pretty empty. And if you walk...
Think about how many passengers that is. Those could have been, those very well could have been, if not full planes, or at least 3/4 of full planes.
to one of these check-in monitors, check-in booths where you would have checked in if you were flying today, it tells you what's going on. We regret to inform you, Spirit Airlines has ceased global operations, and perhaps most frustratingly, it says customer service is no longer available. That's what passengers are going to have to be dealing with today and in the next few days as they try to rebook themselves on different airlines. Some of the people I spoke to just a minute ago told me that not only they did not realize that their flights were being canceled, they're not sure what they're going to do next. Now, if you would have come into this airport for a flight that was scheduled today, you would have walked right here to this departure gate, and I just want to show you what it looks like, that it is completely shut down. There's no access, and then there are these flyers everywhere just notifying people about the shutdown, telling them that essentially they're not going to be going anywhere today, telling them about the airline shutdown and directing them to other airlines. Now let's talk about what's happened in the last few hours since we heard from Spirit Airlines announcing that they would be ceasing operation. It happened in the early hours of the morning after, like you said, they failed to get that $500 million bailout from the federal government. In many ways, Spirit Airlines made history in the airline industry for the past 34 years. They were considered sort of a maverick of the industry, right? They sold cheap tickets, but they charged you for almost everything else. Water, printing your
I didn't realize they were in business for 34 years, though. Wow.
pass, bringing on your bag. That was the model, and it was successful. At one point, Spirit Airlines was actually one of the fastest growing airlines in the United States, but that all started to change, especially after the other major airlines began to compete with them and provide some of those same options, including cheaper tickets. Now, as you said in the beginning, Victor, the last sort of nail on the coffin for Spirit Airlines in the past few months was, of course, the surging price of fuel. That was what made it so difficult for them to stay afloat. And as we heard from Spirit Airlines overnight, they're now ceasing their operation after 34 years in the industry. More than 17,000 people expected to lose their jobs, and millions of passengers are likely to be stranded in the next few days. Victor?
Gloria Pazmino there at LaGuardia. A lot of people trying to get home. Thanks so much. If you've booked a flight on Spirit, what do? All right, I spoke with aviation reporter for The Points Guy last hour, and here's what he suggested to get a refund.
This morning, Spirit has put out a notice on its website and said that it will be automatically processing refunds for canceled flights. Of course, though, it's kind of a dicey situation because you're talking about an airline that, had major cash flow issues.
That's what I'm saying. Do they still have the means to pay back?
At the heart of what has happened here overnight. So, if you don't get a refund from Spirit, if you don't have any luck, we are suggesting right now that, if you pay with a credit card, go ahead and request a chargeback with that credit card. Basically tell your credit card company that, that you didn't receive the thing that you paid for, that thing being a flight, of course. And, there are some federal protections in place to ensure you get that money back from your credit card company.
In the short term, other airlines, talking to Allegiant, United, Frontier, they've offered special fares for passengers left stranded. With me now is aviation reporter for The Points Guy, Sean Cudahy. Sean, good morning to you. First, what happens to those thousands of passengers who are waiting for a flight to get back home?
Yeah, they're kind of out of luck this morning, unfortunately. Now, the good news is that some of the other U.S. airlines have said that they will cap fares, in some case doing discounted fares on routes where they go head-to-head with Spirit, or I guess where they did go head-to-head with Spirit. So, there's going to be an opportunity to rebook and not pay those exorbitant last-minute, ticket prices. But, make no mistake, this is
good on the other airlines for chipping in, and trying to help out their fellow airlines. That's good.
Not good news across the industry for consumers.
Yeah, certainly they won't have to pay those walk-up fares, which are probably much higher than anything they would have found online. What about the flight attendants and the pilots who are not back in their home cities?
Yeah, other airlines, a number of other airlines have said that they will basically extend the privileges that they give to their employees to kind of move them around the country, around the world. They will extend those to Spirit employees. So if you've got flight attendants, pilots that are in the wrong city, and certainly there's a lot of them at this hour with the airline kind of abruptly shutting down overnight, they're going to open up seats, jump seats on their planes to try to get them back to the right cities. After the shutdown just a few hours ago here.
Obviously, this doesn't come out of nowhere, right? There was a talk a week ago about a potential bailout. This is the second bankruptcy for Spirit Airlines. What will be the implications for the rest of the industry and the flying public? And are we already seeing any of that?
Yeah, I think that the big concern is when it comes to airfare. Even if you're someone who never flew Spirit, never stepped on one of its yellow planes, you benefited from Spirit because these ultra low cost carriers, they tend to put pressure on the big airlines to keep fares in check. We still have a couple of low cost airlines, Frontier Airlines kind of most notably, but the industry on that sector.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Less competition in the industry is that's never good for the consumer.
Industry is definitely smaller, and at a time when fuel prices are already putting huge upward pressure on airfare. We've seen 15-20% spikes in airfare this summer. I think there's a lot of concern, especially in markets where Spirit had a significant presence, that consumers could be dealing with higher ticket prices kind of long term.
And so for people who were not waiting for a flight but had a flight booked, do they get their money back?
Spirit says that they will. So this morning, Spirit has put out a notice on its website and said that it will be automatically processing refunds for canceled flights. Of course, though, it's kind of a dicey situation because you're talking about an airline that had major cash flow issues, obviously at the heart of what has happened here overnight. So if you don't get a refund from Spirit, if you don't have any luck, we are suggesting right now that if you pay with a credit card, go ahead and request a chargeback with that credit card. Basically, tell your credit card company that that you didn't receive the thing that you paid for, that thing being a flight, of course. And there are some federal protections in place to ensure you get that money back from your credit card company. I think that's sort of the best bet at this point. A lot of travel insurance plans likely not going to cover insolvency cancellations from an airline. So there are protections for consumers, but not as many as there normally would be if your flight was canceled because of maintenance or something like that.
14,000 Spirit employees. The rest are contractors of the 17,000. Are the shortages across the industry significant enough where they can absorb some of these flight attendants, some of these pilots, or are these people going to have to look for jobs in other?
I doubt that man has that type of information, but this report is definitely digging in deep. Good on him.
Industries.
Yeah, I think that kind of remains to be seen. We have seen a number of airlines slow hiring this year because of the sky-high jet fuel costs that they're dealing with. It kind of depends on what part of what role we're talking about. Certainly there is a major need across the industry for more aircraft mechanics, highly specialized roles. I'm sure that those, there will be opportunities for those workers. I think, it's a big industry, and I think that, there will be opportunities. We've heard some airlines say that they're going to give kind of preferential, interviews to Spirit candidates that were affected by this. But, I do think that we are dealing with unfortunately, a very difficult situation for these employees, out of really no fault of their own, that they've come into this situation.
Take a listen to some of the frustrated passengers we encountered.
Well, let's hear her out, and then, that should be a wrap on, no pun intended, on the Spirit reporting.
I just got here, and the people that were standing here just said there's no flights. Spirit went out of business.
So we're going to Orlando, and you get here this morning, and
I found it odd. I did. I saw the notices, didn't really think about it, walked right by them. And I went to the kiosk and I typed in my information, and they're like, oh yeah, your flight has been canceled, find an agent.
Yeah, they probably contacted this gentleman, probably didn't check his email, but nevertheless, rest in peace to Spirit. They are no more. Hey, maybe it was a heck of a run for them. Again, hopefully all those employees find different employment, and all those customers get to their destination safely and kudos to the rest of the industry for, you know, chipping in and trying to help out Spirit in the end there. So that's going to be the show this week. This is a weekly pivot. You know, we might rebrand. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.